Hello there everyone, Mohammed Najmi here, and today I have for you some interesting facts about tea. Now I love drinking tea, as I'm sure most of you do as well. So I tried finding some of the weirdest facts that I could find, some facts that, are not that common. And there are 10 of them, and I hope you enjoy listening to them. So without further ado, let's get to it. Fact number 1. Some cultures, they actually add butter to their tea. Now this happens in the Himalayas. In the Himalayas, it is not uncommon to add butter to your milk and tea. It is believed that the fat and salt will keep you better hydrated at that altitude. So it must be specific to them. Number 2. Now tea is associated with weight loss. Probably not the one with butter, I guess. Green teas in particular have been associated with boosting your metabolism and helping you work out. And they also keep you feeling full throughout the day if you consume 2 or 3 cups a day of green tea. So all you fitness freaks out there, get your green tea on. Number 3. Iced tea. One of my favorite forms of tea or any beverage to drink during the summer, I think. Iced tea was invented by the British as early as 1904. It is believed that iced tea was invented by a tea merchant, Richard Blichendon. The biggest challenge at the time was finding and maintaining the ice itself, but even then he discovered how to have tea in the summer and make iced tea. Brilliant idea, I think. One of the best drinks, as I said before, to drink in hotter climate. And Americans tasted their first iced tea at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. Originally exhibiting tea merchant Richard Blichendon, who had planned to give away free samples of his hot tea to attendees. But when a heat wave hit, no one was interested. Parched from the temperature, visitors would pass his booth in search of a cooler refreshment. To save his investment of time and trouble, he dumped a load of ice into the brewed tea and served the first iced tea. It was, along with the Egyptian fan dancer, the hit of the fair, according to the Tea Class blog. Number 5. It's considered that it takes around 2,000 tiny leaves to make just 1 pound of finished tea. Tea plant grows wild in parts of Asia, but it can also be farmed. The very best tea comes from high elevation and is hand-picked usually, so just imagine those 2,000 tiny leaves making just 1 pound of tea, and 1 pound of tea usually will make 181 cups of tea as well. Number 6. Now did you know that you're less likely to get a caffeine crash when you drink tea as opposed to soda or coffee? And you must be asking why is that? Well, the high levels of oxidants in tea slow the absorption of caffeine, which results in a gentler increased caffeine in your system and a longer period of alertness with no crash at the end. Now, I always knew it, tea is better than coffee. Number 7. An interesting one. Tea has started wars before. There's a phrase that goes by, not for all the tea in China, meaning that there's no amount of money large enough to convince you to do something, right? And this phrase came about because tea was once one of the most highly valued commodities. When it finally started being exported from China and grown elsewhere, the world went crazy. For a long time, tea was so highly prized and sought after that it was in large part responsible for starting wars, including both the Revolutionary War and the Opium Wars. Number 8. Now, not all tea is actually tea. Mint tea, for example, isn't actually a tea, it's an infusion. Now, all teas that are classed as tea have to come from the leaves of the Camellia sinensis plant. A lot of the companies have gotten into the habit now of giving something the title tea because it's something that you put in your cup. And it's hot and you drink it, or it's cold, whatever it might be. Specifically, tea comes from the leaves of Camellia plant. Everything else is a herb like mint, fruit teas like raspberries and so on. They are an infusion. they are not actually teas. But it doesn't matter, call them a tea or not, they're still nice to drink. Number 9. Now there's a legend that goes around about the Chinese emperor Shen Nong, and it says that there's a legend that tea was discovered by him in 2737 BC when leaves from a wild tree fell into his bowl of boiling water and he drank it and it was tea. However, there's other legends as well connected to the same emperor Shen Nong of how he actually came by to creating tea, because he was also considered the master of herbs and used to experiment with herbs as well. How much of reality that is there within this emperor is not, it's not for me to say, but it's not that clear how much of it is mythology and how much is real. But anyways, there is this legend that goes by that Chinese Emperor Shen Nong is actually the creator of tea. His name actually, literally, it means divine farmer or god of agriculture in Chinese. And like I said, he was known to be a herbalist 5,000 or so years ago. The valuable work of Shen Nong was remembered and handed down to generations. It eventually became the oldest book of Chinese traditional medicine, known as Shen Nong Ben Gao Jing, or the classic of herbal medicine. So the one of the stories that goes by is that one day he encountered 72 poisonous herbs. It was too much even for him, so he felt so weak, stumbled and grabbed some leaves as he fell, lying on the ground. He thought that he would taste the leaves in his hand and then he could die without regret. It's just like, at least I tasted something new or whatever. The leaves swam around in Shen Nong's body. As soon as he put them in his mouth, they swiftly checked the infected areas and performed wonders. Shen Nong was saved by the healing power. He pleasantly surprised and decided to name this plant Cha, meaning examine or check. Since then, Shen Nong often used Cha as an antidote. Cha was known by people because of him, but with a different character in its writing, which also means tea in Chinese. That is one of the other variations of the legend about him that I told you earlier, and there are many other. Number 10 and the last one. Black tea can actually affect iron absorption. John Mayer, one of the antioxidants researcher at the USDA Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts University, said that tea, especially black tea, blocks iron absorption from foods and supplements. McKay recommends avoiding tea when taking vitamins and while eating foods that are rich in iron. This is especially important for pregnant women who take prenatal vitamins. Now, I'll give you one last bonus fact. So, there was a London tea auction. It ran for 300 years. According to the BBC, by the 1950s, a third of all the world's tea was bought through the auction. The UK Tea and Infusion Association adds to this note that auctions were held roughly quarterly and the tea was sold by the candle. This meant that rather than allowing bidding to go on for an unlimited length of time, a candle was lit at the beginning of the sale of each lot, and when an inch of the candle had burned away, the hammer fell and the sale was ended. Interesting that, isn't it? Anyways, that's all I had for you today. 10 interesting facts about tea plus a bonus fact. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and if you like this episode, well, like it and share it with others, and consider subscribing to the podcast if you haven't already done so. Anyways, until next time, take care, be good, and thank you so much for listening.